President Biden barely lifting a finger to fix a nationwide baby formula shortage. Parents are in a full-blown panic over whether they can keep their babies from starving. Supply is down 40% nationwide. Instead of using the bully pulpit and demanding action, all Biden could muster was a measly closed press event. The president putting out a three-point plan to address the crisis, vowing to cut the red tape. But Joe was apparently too busy to talk directly to the American people. And as usual with his presidency, it comes too little, too late. Jen Psaki, spinning like crazy, appears to have contradicted herself on when Biden learned about the crisis.
President Biden has directed the administration to work urgently to ensure that infant formula is safe and available for families across the country. This is work that's been underway for months.
When was the first time the president was briefed on the shortage?
I'm not going to get into internal briefings. He's been made aware of it through the process, and there's been steps.
This week?
It would have been, yes.
And as American families scrambled to keep their babies fed, a GOP congresswoman making a bombshell claim. Kat Cammack releasing photos she says she got from Border Patrol that apparently shows pallets of hard-to-find baby formula ready for illegal immigrants to use.
There were several agents that actually sent me text messages with photos and videos of not just boxes, but pallets of unopened, unused, waiting to be used baby formula and diapers. And we're talking lots of pallets. And this was at the Donna processing facility as well as the Ursula processing facility. I have it from several higher ups within the Border Patrol that more pallets are expected to arrive in the next 3 days.
We did reach out twice to the Department of Homeland Security for comment, but haven't heard back. All right, Jesse, I guess now we can add the baby food shortage to the list of other disasters that this administration is dealing with, or maybe not dealing with. You add it to the laundry list, and you have to say to yourself, is this just continuously what we're going to have to deal with without anyone really doing anything about it?
Yeah, there's shortages everywhere. There's one in the White House. Listen, Biden's so old school, he probably thinks all women breastfeed anyway. I'm surprised he hasn't gone after big formula. There's a few reasons why this is happening. There's a few, yeah, well, that too.
Don't go there.
There's a few reasons why. There was a baby bust during COVID. Then there was a baby boom post-COVID. People started getting busy. Then a lot of people are stealing the baby food because you can sell it for high prices on the black market. And then you have the recall, you have the supply chains, and there's a shortage of labor and cow milk. Cow milk ingredients there's a shortage of in this country in 2022. Does Biden see any of this? No. Yesterday, we played a soundbite of Whoopi Goldberg saying, none of this is Biden's fault. He walks around, he steps on a loose floorboard, and it hits him in the face. Things keep hitting him in the face. That's because Joe and the Democrats can't nail down any of the damn floorboards. Everything from baby formula to crime to inflation to gas prices, he's surprised by. The man has no vision. He's like a quarterback who gets under the center, and he has no idea how to read a defense, right? He's reacting to everything. You have to get out there and anticipate things that are happening. And at this point, what he's done with families, he says he cares about children and families. First, he calls kids racist in school. Then he calls parents domestic terrorists. Then they can't feed their babies. But we can feed the Ukrainian war machine. We can feed the illegal alien babies. But we can't feed our own babies. It's sad.
Well, you know, doesn't it add, Greg, to the America Last theme that has been going on since Joe Biden became president? You know, that if what the Congresswoman says is true, and I have no reason to doubt her, that there are pallets of baby formula. I said the other day on this show, last weekend, my daughter's baby, 10 months old, she said, Mom, can you go look for baby formula? 2 places I went to. Nothing, zero. And now, do you know how fired up I am that they've got these on pallets at the border? I mean, what about our kids?
Well, it's not America Last. It's a specific number of Americans last. Permission to go off?
Yes.
Okay. The government doesn't like half of the people it governs. Actually, it might even be higher. I mean, it's not just Trumpers and Republicans. Whites, straights, males, suburban moms. This is the party for the oppressed. And even when you're a mom with a baby, let's face it, you're an oppressor, right? You reproduce, which harms the environment. You expand your carbon footprint with family. You didn't terminate the child. You know, so there's maybe no baby formula they think is not a bad thing. And Jesse's right. If we had an engaged president who could see the priorities of the average American clearly, instead of running cover for kind of woke policies, whether it's canceling student debt, defunding the police, the medicalization of children, we would have beaten this thing or got a head start on this. Instead, you know, we make fun of him about losing his keys, losing his place, but he's kind of lost the sense of what America is, right? He has forgotten that he's president of all of us. And he is the most slow to react president probably in U.S. history, and it mirrors his own slow to react mannerisms. And then when he's caught out, he just starts yelling, right? And it's a manufactured rage. I don't know if you saw that tape yesterday. It's a manufactured rage saying, like, this is my kind of action. But no, it's a man shouting at the clouds and really having no idea what to do. And I think that the American public has every right to be enraged, and not the kind of rage that burns down cities, which is acceptable to some Democrats. In this case, your kids go hungry, you're going to see more than parents at the school boards.
Yep.
Okay, Geraldo, you know, the Wall Street Journal yesterday had a very interesting article, and they said that this recall at the manufacturing plant at Abbott in Michigan has worsened an already existing industry where they've got a shortage of baby food. But what was stunning to me in this article was that the Center for Disease Control says that there is no connection between anything at that Michigan plant that's been closed down since February 17th and the children the two babies who died and two were injured. And so the question that I have is, if the CDC says that there's no contamination, one person said on Fox today, I think it was James Freeman, he said, is this a government-created shortage? Why don't they just go back in and say, start producing?
It may be a government-created shortage, but I think that it is wrong and unfair to minimize the fact that Similac and aluminum and the other baby formulas have been recalled. They have been recalled. That is a fact. Why would they recall? Because 4 kids got sick. 2 of the kids died of these bacterial infections. So there's several things that go on. Number one, the FDA was slow to react. They got the complaints about Abbott Labs in October. It wasn't until the end of January that they inspected the Abbott plant. A whistleblower at Abbott has accused the baby formula manufacturer of falsifying records, failing to keep records, releasing untested baby formula, and hiding the records from 2019.
But when they tested, that's the issue.
It is interesting that Abbott, in regard and into support of what you said about the CDC, Abbott is giving a number out that people can call, and I'll let the producers tell me whether I should give the number, to get the baby formula from Abbott on the assumption that, you know, it's safe enough, that you rather feed the baby than have the baby
Are you saying that Abbott will give people formula based on a number? Give me the number. We'll put it on. Okay, all right. So, fantastic. I don't know if it's okay. Let the producers tell you. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to go to you, Dagan. The other thing that I found out that I thought was very unusual is that 98% of the formula that we use in this country for babies. And by the way, if you're not familiar with this, if you don't have kids, you can't just give babies food. You've got to have formula, or you can't make it. Apparently, we sell that formula to other countries, to Ireland and other countries. I mean, what do we do now? Do we now pull back and say it's America first? Is that what Joe Biden should be doing?
Well, one thing that the FDA should have done and is planning to do, according to the talking points that they were regurgitating today, is alleviating some of the trade restrictions that the FDA has in place on formula. Why did they wait? Because the shortages were going up and up and up week after week, month after month. This is not just an Abbott problem. There were supply problems on formula months and months before. Last month, there was an April 10th, the week of April 10th, 31% of the most popular baby formula brands were out of stock. Week of April 24th, it was up to 40%. So Jen Psaki has the gall to stand up there and say, we've known about that for months. Okay, so you knew about it for months and didn't do anything and frightened these parents and potentially let children starve? That's your America? if you knew about it for months. So the FDA is apparently going to alleviate some of these trade restrictions. Also, there are all these other regulations. This seems to be the broad problem for Biden Incorporated, is that, like, there's a mandate that retailers have to wait 90 days before marketing a new infant formula. Why does that exist when there are vast shortages in this country? So, and Abbott, there were 4 babies who got sick, 2 of whom who died, and it took them. They still haven't even restarted the plant. It's 2 weeks from now. Why was the FDA and the CDC and dragging their feet about this when the formula shortages were getting worse and worse and worse?
That's the whole point. There's
not traced to the plant.
Pierre, she says, "Oh, we're tracking it." Who cares if you're tracking it? Do something.
I just want to add one more. Wait, I just want to add one more thing. The bacterial infections were not traced to that plant.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And
that's what we said.
Biden. They live in a world that doesn't exist, that they want to exist. They don't live in the real world. They're trying to recreate this like left-wing land of the lost.
Well, you'll be able to talk about that in the next block.
Where oil and gas don't exist. And where men lactate.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.